We're going to have a panel now. One of the things that I mentioned yesterday is that, besides bringing you investment ideas, we want to encourage people that already have their own vision to follow that. Now, we're going to have a panel of people that you've already seen here. One of them is new, who ventured into setting up businesses in the Dominican Republic. What has been their experience? We want you to hear the experiences of those who have decided to come here. Some of them have gone into real estate, which is the popular choice, and others have decided to go a different route, okay? So we're gonna hear real life experiences of people who set up different type of businesses coming to the DR. What are some of the challenges they faced? Okay, what have been the benefits? What is the advice that they have for you, those who want to come and invest in the DR, set up a business in the DR, okay? So I want to welcome our panelists now. Come on up, guys. Okay. So, even though real estate, as I said, is a favorite of people, we do have examples of people who have come here with different ideas. Real estate, Veronica has a bar and a restaurant. Alex went into his app, okay? We were gonna have someone else here, which is she was in the cocktail yesterday that, she heads up Dominican today. She's German. Monica Harrell, very good friend and, business associate. She started Dominican today. So these are all business ideas that they got and developed here in the DR, right? We heard a little bit about Bart's story. He made me cry. I can't stand for him to get up here because my mascara runs every single time. He's a tearjerker, this guy. But yesterday, when you came, Bart, the interesting thing about how you approached it is that you first came to the DR and then started noticing the need. Mm-hmm. And that's how your zipline got started, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. When you first came to the DR, you had nothing. How did the idea start to come?
My family had come on a cruise ship. I did the DR on a motor like this. I did it with my North Face backpack, just like this, on motorcycles over the whole island. And I really liked the DR. We went to Cabarete, the Zona Colonial, Santiago, Jarabacoa. I did it all. And I never made it to Samaná. I actually made it to Las Terrenas 16 years ago. And it used to just be one little loop, right? And everybody had, there's a bunch of French people there, and they had their little four-wheelers with little baskets in the front. Mm-hmm. But it was nothing like it was compared to today. And then, my buddy's like, hey, there's a place that's supposed to be cool. It's called Samaná. I'm like, dude, we've seen it all. Let's get out of here. And I was convinced that I wanted to go to Costa Rica and build out different projects. So my family came on the cruise ship, and they said, Bart, have you ever been to Samaná? I'm like, it's all the same, I'm not interested. I want to surf and scuba in Puerto Viejo in Costa Rica. And my brother said, no, man, this place is calling your name. The vibrations are bouncing everywhere. You got to go there and check it out. And I said, I'm not interested. And he said, if you don't do anything else for me in your whole life, you got to go just check it out. And I already had my plans of wanting to do the Treehouse Village. I didn't know where God was going to take me. And so when he took me back there. I told my brother, okay, I'll go check it out. I bought a ticket 2 weeks later, and within the first 3 weeks, I put together the land deal to do the zip line. My brother had said to me, one of the fastest growing activities inside the cruise ships were the zip line. And that's really where the idea was a derivative of. And when they came to the Samaná port, they just noticed that there was nothing going on there and that there's so many things that could transpire. So that's basically the basis of it.
You see, and this is one of the things I like about Bart's story is that the idea came to him by observing. You don't need to come to the DR with a ready-made plan because this is what I did in the States, this is what I did back home. Because when you're here, being in the country, you're going to see the needs. that there are in the respective areas, and that's where your investment idea may come from. So notice that in his case, he went to different parts of the island. He toured it. Okay, and finally, when he goes to Samaná, he's like, the zip line. And the idea was born from that, a very successful idea, because that zip line is very popular. Now, I'm not going to do it. You will not. This man has tried everything in the book to get me to do it, but I'm a natural chicken. You know, I hide my leg flaps behind my clothes. I'm not going to do that. But you have to see the amount of people that flock to this zip line in Samaná. So the idea came to him when he was here. So a lot of times I tell people, and I do this in my YouTube channel, come to the country. Even when it comes down to figuring out where you want to live. You don't have to come to DR knowing this is where I'm going to live. Vibe. Go to different places. He said, I have nothing to do in Samaná. I have nothing to do there. And then it turns out that Samaná is the place to be. He will not leave it. So when you come to the country, don't feel like you have to determine where you're going to be. Explore it. See how you feel. Go to different areas. You know, there are people that want to go to a beach town, and then there are people that just want to live on the sticks. I happen to like campo. Campo meaning the rural areas, you know, far removed from. So sometimes the idea may not be clear, get here. And the idea will occur to you. Okay, that's very important. Now, he obviously got into real estate in Samaná because being in Samaná, he saw its natural beauty. And being the mad, you know, genius that he is, he started getting ideas of what designs could work. And the tree house was born. Okay? So here again, you get here first. Now in Alex's case, it's not about real estate.
Not quite. No, not quite about real estate, but a little bit. Well, my story actually starts with the Dominican Republic back in 1992.
Okay.
I was in the military, you know, and I remember like yesterday, I was in this system that they call AIT. So once you get off the basic training, you go to the AIT where you start to learn, you know, your skill or trade. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to eat breakfast one morning. And I'm from Atlanta, so I'm in the deep south. And I saw somebody, I don't know what it was, I just saw something floating across. And I said, oh my God, what is that? And it was my first, I guess, experience seeing a Dominican woman in the military. So I was like, and so my first words to her were, I'm going to marry you. And 30 days later, you know, we got married. And so I was like married in 30 days.
This man don't waste no time.
No, I'm saying, so, I mean, and then we...
Well, he declared it to the universe.
Yeah, I said, okay, you know. And so when we finally came to, in 2000, to visit the Dominican Republic, you know, the capital, me being a lifelong entrepreneur, I just saw, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, there's so much that can be done here. And at that time in 2000, computer programming and computer science was a big deal. And that's something that I've always been into. So I was like, I could do so much here in computers. But I never really got the time to expand on it, you know, because just, it was a different time back then. I came back to the Dominican Republic in 2015. And at that time I had started, that's when Uber and Lyft was starting to really be big in the States. And so with me being an entrepreneur, I said, you know, it would be crazy for me to get into this space and try to compete with them. I need to find a niche market. So what I ended up doing was going to the government and getting a government contract to take people from their homes to the doctors, which is paid by the government and Medicaid. So I did pretty good in that. And which brought me to 2019, and I said, you know what, I want to take this to the Dominican Republic. And so I brought it to the Dominican Republic, and but I wanted to do it differently. Again, niche market. I knew the cab drivers here, the cab companies were having an issue with Uber coming in initially. And believe it or not, people told me, they said, you can't get the cab companies together to, you know, make this happen. And I was like, well, I'll try. And to make a long story short, I got 5 of the top cab companies here to agree to work together to fight Uber and Lyft. So we started it, and the biggest issue was paying people. And this is when I got banned by Western Union and everybody because we was trying to pay the drivers. And then COVID happened, and so then that kind of changed everything. And through COVID, the taxi companies, they were like, we don't want to do this, we want to do something else. And that's how I started getting into just the payments, because people were trying to send money back and forth. And that's what brought me to where I started Jubilee in 2021.
See, and he said that we're getting gems from these folks. These are gems because he just mentions another key point, niche market. So how do we find a niche? What makes what we're doing different? And it's interesting because that's the model that I follow. Yes, I do immigration and handle, immigration, but my specialty, my firm's specialty is immigration through investment. So within immigration, I have a specialty, a niche, you see. And so by having a niche, you make yourself marketable, you make your investment attractive. That's how it grows. So this is how Jubilee came about. So he came in here not just looking to replicate Uber. He came in here looking for something different. And then he stumbled upon an incredible niche because those of us living in the DR from the US and looking to move money needed this. Because that's another thing. If you use World Remitly Zoom and you're doing it from the DR, it presents a problem. At some point they red flag you. So in comes Jubilee to save the day. So a niche, folks. And how do you do that? Come to the country, check it out, start looking. And now, Veronica.
Yes, ma'am. So
the Iron Maiden. Let me tell you something, she looks sweet. Got the worst attitude you ever saw.
I am so nice.
I don't understand how this woman, let me just tell you something right now. She set up a bar, you're gonna hear about this now, in a very uppity neighborhood. I could send this child to the ghetto and the criminals will be running scared.
They take care of me.
Okay, you could take the girl out of Brooklyn, but you can't take Brooklyn out the girl, sweetie. That's how it is.
You mean Jersey.
Same difference. Same thing. But anyway, tell us about your experience.
So DR was a place that I want to say 30 years ago, because of an immigration problem, I was supposed to come, but I didn't want to leave the US. I was a corporate girl, 30 years in procurement and operations, and it was COVID that actually made me jump ship. And I came during COVID and I traveled the island. I went from Punta Cana to Montecristi to Barahona, back to Santo Domingo. And one of the things that I figured out was the holy trinity of survival during COVID. Real estate, food, and booze. So I was driving down a little street, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a food truck. I picked that up. My husband had a couple of nightclubs before the pandemic, and of course with the pandemic that went away. But he always wanted to do a little bar, so we were driving down one of the main streets off of Churchill, and we bumped into a little colmado, a little store. And we got that and turned that into a bar. And then I parked the food truck in front of the bar. And I sold more food and liquor than ever before. He did more liquor sales than the nightclubs during the pandemic. And we had to close at 12 on a Saturday. 12 noon, not 12 midnight. So it was an interesting time to sell liquor in the DR. And then I said, okay, I want to go to a beach town. So I drove to Boca Chica, which is the closest beach to SDQ. And I found a little corner that had the same name as the bar that I just bought in Santo Domingo. So I got that too. And I ended up learning that even though the distance wasn't far, the transit and the traffic made it impossible for me to be going back and forth between the two. So I ended up selling Boca Chica and sticking to my bar and my food trucks. But then I also understood that Dominicans love to party. And they will have an impromptu party in the middle of any street, anywhere. And I started realizing that people were selling beer out of their trunks. So I said, okay, I need to get some mobile trucks out there so I can pop up and party with them and sell them some cold beer, you know, in the meantime. So I started to just familiarize myself with the culture. I didn't want to live in SDQ. I wanted to live in Samaná. It was one of the first places that I said, I need to retire here. But I also knew, as Maria mentioned before, all the checks are signed in SDQ. So I knew that I needed to figure out how to move in Santo Domingo. She's gonna talk about later on the 101s of buying real estate. There are certain things that you need to do, and if you can afford Maria, by all means, she is good at what she does, right?
You did not have to say that. I mean,
sure
with that kind of candidacy, I'm never gonna reach president.
But there are some things that you can do on your own, right? And I love Maria to death, and I use her all the time, right? But you do have to understand how to move.
Wait, hold on, let me, no. I didn't use Maria when I first started, and it caused me a lot of problems and troubles, and I lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of money because people saw me and they saw a dollar sign, because they knew that I didn't know the language and I didn't know what the heck was going on. So you have to have somebody that you can communicate with 100%, that can communicate what you want 100%, because I was in meetings and I would say one thing, and like I would say, hey, I want 3 oranges on top of that, and then when it got translated, somebody said I wanted some grapes and a butterfly, and that's just not it. And so people are looking at me like, and so no, you have to, but see, you speak the language, and so that's a different.
That's a big
But
difference.
if you are not fluent, you 100% better have somebody that's not only fluent, but understands how you think. It's a different culture, it's a different mentality. The way that I think, I can see today, I can see tomorrow, and I can see where I want to go to now. And some people in the country, they can see right now. So you have to understand that when you're doing business with people, it's right now, today. I've had people say things to me on Monday, and I was sure that we wouldn't never have a discussion again, and then they would call me on Tuesday. Hola, ¿cómo estás? You got to be kidding. Because Monday was Monday, but for Tuesday, that's a different